Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us for the Driver in Deep podcast, episode 47, brought to you by drivercal.com. Mark here, and of course, along for the ride is none other than Alex Nagy. Today we have Racin Jason White with us from beautiful British Columbia, fresh off his races at Daytona. So sit back, buckle up, and let's see how it went. But before we get to Jason, Alex, we have a few things to discuss. First up, last week when we spoke with Lane Zardo, we had a conversation about skiing, and I asked him if he ever competed in the Chinese downhill. And both of you looked at me like I was crazy, but anyway, like in the movie Hot Dog. And anyway, neither of you had, and so I promised a clip for our listeners for this episode. So here goes.
You know something, Rudy? I think it's time we settle this once and for all. Hey, Squirrel, spot me $50.
50?
Make it 40. Chinese downhill. $40 a man. Winner takes all.
Yeah, it is the only way. Chinese downhill.
Oh, and, Rudy, to bring the trophy, I think it should go to the real champion.
I am the champion.
But the Chinese downhill will decide everything.
Yeah, it is a great Chinese downhill.
What the fuck is a Chinese downhill?
So there you go.
Wow, our listeners will be excited.
Well, listen, I promised it, so I had to deliver. That's it. That's the way
Fair
I
enough.
roll.
Fair enough.
That's the way, and that's not really doing the movie any justice. Believe me,
No,
it's
of
pretty.
course
It
not.
is pretty funny though. And for anybody who hasn't seen the movie Hot Dog, the ski movie, Shannon Tweed's in it. We mentioned that last week, and so that alone is worth checking it out. So one of my favorite movies of all time, I will have to say.
Never heard of it, never saw it.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
Anyway, Alex, so why don't you tell our listeners how you've been doing over the past week?
Not much to talk about. Yeah, been okay. Weather continues to get a little bit nicer around here, so that's always good. Hey, last Friday, I gave you a little text, see if you wanted to go out and do a test round in disc golf.
Yeah. What do you mean by test?
We tested your back to see if you're going to get off the injury reserve list or not. You know, been laid up for whatever. For a finely tuned athlete, buddy, that doesn't really play any sports, You sure are hurt a lot. First, your right wrist. Well, not first, but the last thing I remember is your right wrist. And yeah, you're right-handed. And you're away on business in your hotel room all by yourself, and you come home with a right wrist.
Yep.
Obstruction, sprain, whatever it was. So people can come to their own conclusions on that.
Well, first of all, I like the finely tuned athlete mention. I know you know it, but, that's okay. Yeah, getting older, injuries happen. What can I say? And, I was practicing in my hotel room, and I know what you're trying to make it sound like, but really it sounds to me like you're trying to deflect the absolute beating. Let me put some background music to this. The absolute beating the Sabres put on the Leafs last week. And believe me, we are going to get to that. But really, as far as my back's concerned, everything seems to be functioning okay. I'm hard at the rowing machine now, Alex. And if it ever dries up outside, I'll be able to put it to the test.
Like I said, finely tuned athlete, rowing machine. Mm-hmm. You're after it. Not a boy.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about your Buffalo Sabres, and I know for all you Sabres fans, I don't know why it has to be the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, they've beat, they've won 18 games this year, so they beat 17 other teams as well. But of course, it's about the Maple Leafs because it's like when it's the global team, the world's team, everybody gets all wound up about it, I get. But your celebration, as I posted on Facebook last week, the video,
that was great.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And I got so many messages from people and say, is that fucking guy for real? Because they don't know you and they think you're an idiot. So I covered your ass. But I give you credit. I mean, you invite Sandy and I out for dinner and we meet up with we get there and you and Joni already have a table and you look like a friggin' Michelin man sitting there beside your wife.
Well, Alex, you know that Joni and I walked to the restaurant for dinner that night. And, it was what I call naggy nuts nipply outside. And I even explained to you how important it is to layer in these conditions. But, you get like all distracted. And, so I may have worn a couple items that were Sabres themed.
Yeah, check the video out, folks.
Yeah.
And the funny part was, I guess you thought it was something that would get a rise on me. I could care less. I've seen that shit on you before. But the funniest
not all at the same time.
You thought that you were trying to get a rise out of me, and there's people in the restaurant. I think 3 of them left. They're like, what is going on with this guy? They're laughing like a bastard at you.
They
awesome.
Must have reevaluated their Leaf fanship is all I can think of.
Again, it was a Sabres attire.
Yeah.
There's nothing that said Leafs. Why do you got to bring the Leafs into it?
Because it was fresh off the pounding that we put on. Yeah. And anyway, I did discuss earlier that, there was something else we wanted to talk about. I take a beating from you TML super fans, like yourself, Gibber, our colorblind flagger friend, Mike Beckman, who texts me every single time AM34 scores a goal. Billy and John, same way. And, I had to be nice because I went to the Leaf Vancouver game with them last Saturday, and John had some great tickets. So, I had to be nice to them about that. But the game was ugly. Blew another lead to Vancouver. And even Gooder, our friend Kevin Gooder.
Hang on a sec.
Hang on. Kevin. Haven't done that in a while. But he's an Edmonton fan, and he still likes to bust my balls. So, Alex, I have a question for you. You know the old adage, if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound?
Yes. I don't know, my grandfather used to say it, I guess.
Yeah, well, this is along the same lines. If Austin Matthews scores a hat trick and the Leafs lose, or they let in 4 more goals like they did again last night, does it really matter? Because there's no winning happening in Toronto, obviously, unless it's the opposing team.
Yeah, no, you're right. And yeah, last night he got 3. They got score for it on him, and they won.
Right.
The night you went and watched them play Vancouver as a obviously closet Leaf fan, they let 4 in, and they won. And yeah, there's no winning going on. You're right. I mean, 5th. I want you to hear these numbers. 5th, 37, 16, 4. You know what that is?
Probably their record this year.
Yeah, 5th overall in the league.
Yeah.
Right? Not playing in the Canadian League. 5th overall in the league. 37 wins, 16 losses, 4 ties. I want you to hear these numbers. 29, 18, 32, 8.
Okay.
29th overall, the Sabres. 18 wins, 32 losses. Mm-hmm. They almost have as many losses as the Leafs have wins. And the Leafs got a pile of wins. So I guess that, well, you know what that means.
So what do you get if you win in the regular season, Nagy?
Wait, dude, a minute ago they were not winning. Now they're winning.
No,
now you're going somewhere else.
I'm not denying that they haven't won their share of games this year. If you win in the regular season,
one thing you get is an acceptance into the playoffs, which the Sabres haven't been to in 11 years.
Listen, it's a process. And the Leafs... hang on. It's a process here. Like, when you're talking about the difference between a small market... Hang on a second. There's difference between a small market team and a large market team.
Oh, here we go. The poor Buffalo Sabres. They're owners of gazillionaire.
Not saying they're poor.
NFL team. Come on.
What I'm saying is the Leafs haven't won a playoff series. They haven't won a playoff series longer than anybody else in the NHL and have the longest streak of not winning the cup. Am I right?
I have no idea. Only you keep track of the Leafs.
Well, I'm just saying.
Else.
That's all true.
They've been in the
Leafs can't win a playoff series, and they're a large market team with every advantage that you don't get in the small markets. There's no free agents going to Columbus. There's no. That's just a fact, and you know it. You think Tavares was ever
No.
going to go anywhere else? No, it's Toronto. It's a big market team. And, he grew up wearing his pajamas.
Please stop.
I'm just saying. Okay,
Listen.
anyway. Okay, let's get on to the last point
Whether
that
it's
I have.
you or Bend Over Beckman or the colorblind flagman, all you guys are is a hockey team fan. You don't know nothing about hockey.
Really?
And I got to answer messages all week about all your stupid rationales.
Okay,
Like,
well,
you
you
wanna
say
talk
I don't know
hockey,
anything
talk
about
hockey.
hockey, so here's another one for you. Last year,
This should be good.
do you remember when I so elegantly proclaimed that the Leafs are only looking good because they're playing in the AAA midget division versus all the other Canadian teams? You remember that?
Yeah. No, I
Okay,
do.
great.
So
Hang on. Let's
last
play
year-
a little. Go ahead.
No. Last year they were a piece of shit because they're in whatever you called it, AAA midget division.
Mm-hmm.
They're 6th or 7th overall in the league. This year they're playing everybody and they're 5th overall in the league. So that is another super fan, hate Toronto, dumb way to get to something that means nothing because you don't know what you're talking about.
Really? I don't know
What else you
you're
got?
talking about. Well, I said that because I believe that the Canadian teams were garbage last year. And
Right.
anyway,
so this year
let's
they're not in that division and their record's better.
so
You're right.
let's play a little game here. I'm going to run a few names by you, and you let me know what they have in common because you wanted to play some games. So here we go. Does that sound good?
Play games.
Yeah.
I'm just answering your questions.
Yeah.
Poking holes
No.
in your rationales.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So
What do
go
you got?
ahead.
What do you
All
got
right.
now?
Here-
Don't
here's-
embarrass yourself.
I'm going to give you some names, and I have to believe you'll get the right answer here. Daryl Sutter, Jay Woodcroft, Martin St. Louis, Bruce Boudreau, and Dave Lowry. What do they all have in common?
They're all coaches.
Right. All 5 of them coach a Canadian team within the last year. So I tried to explain to you why TML was winning last year. They get to the playoffs and they shit the bed. We all know that. But 5 out of the 7 teams had a coaching change. So really, when you guys are arguing with me about how good the Canadian division was,
No one argued with
5 of them changed their coaches.
Maybe bend
within-
over Beckman or Billy or Johnny or
Yeah.
Susie or all those hockey super fans that know
So,
nothing about the game.
no, that's all right. I don't know anything about hockey. We already established that, right?
I'm sorry, you coached House League. No, you ref House League.
No, I
Sorry,
was
you never
never a
coached
coach.
nothing.
No, I didn't.
Anyways, listen. So those coaches. So Daryl Sutter was with Calgary last year.
Right.
So
At the end of the year,
what are you saying? The teams have done bad, so they dumped their coaches?
5 out of 7 Canadian teams no
done
longer
that,
have
so
their
they
head
don't-
coach. They don't just get rid of a
Right.
head coach if you're doing well.
Oh,
Montreal made
so
it to
then-
the Cup. Where's it? What
right,
happened?
So they went to the you're
Martin
right.
St. Louis is the coach now.
The runner up in the Cup came from the AAA division last year. Crazy how that works.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really
Well, we
funny,
can
so
talk
you
about
just
that
said-
later if you want, but
You just said that these coaches all got fired because they're
no,
teams.
these are all the new coaches.
yeah,
of the
they all
teams.
got hired.
They got
because
hired.
The teams were
Right.
doing poorly.
Right. I didn't give
Well,
you
the
a specific
problem is-
reason for each team.
The problem was every one of those teams you mentioned
Mhm.
is ahead of Buffalo and were before those coaches
Dude,
got fired.
listen.
Buffalo still has the same coach. So if your rationale again is that a coach gets fired when a team's a piece of shit, you're wrong because
Because
Buffalo
these
still has the same
big
coach
these
and they're
teams
still a
think
piece
they
of
have
shit.
to win. They think they have to win now. And guess
You're-
what? They
no, you're
can't.
right.
Year after year, they can't.
You're right. No,
Montreal
you're right. Buffalo
was not
doesn't-
even close to winning the Cup
and
last
apparently
year.
Buffalo doesn't think they have to win.
No,
They
it's
haven't
all
won for
about
enough years.
development, Alex. And if
I
you
get-
have a coach and an ownership that understands
Some
that,
players
look
don't
at the
even
Buffalo
play for
Bills.
11 years.
The first
Some players
number
don't
of
even
years
play
the
for 11
Pagulas owned the Buffalo Bills, they didn't
The
win,
Buffalo Bills. got
right?
two
And
or
guess what?
19
Now
seconds.
they are a Super Bowl perennial team. And
Yeah,
it
yeah,
takes
they were
time and
in it this
patience,
year, you're
and
right.
they're given that time and patience to Don Granato. So tell me I'm wrong. Let's see if I prove it right again.
I just proved you wrong in every point you made.
That is so funny.
No, you're
How
right.
about our listeners
The
let us
Sabres
know?
are all about development, right? There's
Listen,
some players that don't play 11
Alex,
years in the league, dude, and they've been developing for 11 years.
When you're a small market team, you have to do it the right way.
Oh,
Toronto thinks there's
here goes-
shortcuts
here
to
goes
the
the
cup, and
violin.
it never works out. There are no
Here goes
shortcuts to the
violin.
cup.
What's it got to do with Toronto? We're talking about teams. Hockey.
Well, you're a super fan of
See,
TML.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
You know more about them than I do.
How about
You're telling me
how
to
about we
score
get
a
on to
game,
some
so I'm watching-
motorsports there, buddy?
Yeah. I would, if I was you, I would too. It's another topic you know nothing about.
Yeah. How about our listeners? Let us know how this debate went. So maybe we'll call this episode Debate Night. All right. Here we go. Okay, you can find Jason White on Facebook by searching for Racin Jason White on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, actually. And let's welcome from Sun Peaks, British Columbia, Racin Jason White. Welcome to Driver in Deep, Jason.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure, for sure.
Hey, Whitey. The original Whitey, by the way. I get reminded because, as you don't know, Mark, we got a mutual friend who is Whitey as well. But every time Jason always reminds me who the original Whitey is, so I thought
the OG.
Get that out of the way.
The OG.
As Mark says, man, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Well, great.
We were recently texting back and forth a little bit while you were down in Daytona this year, and you know where you raced the Camping World Truck Series race and also the ARCA Menard Series race. And I know that you didn't get the results that you wanted, but you know overall, well done, good experience again, and. Another wrinkle this year for you guys was you helped out a fellow Canadian, Jacques Villeneuve, who was running in the Cup Series. So tell us about your Speed Week experience this year and having Jacques down there and all that stuff. How did it all go?
Well, you know, it's actually really cool because it was all about Canada. Josh Rayum Brothers Racing is actually from Victoria. He's a Canadian boy. And, you know, I've been driving for him since 2018 in the Rayum Brothers Racing number 33. And we had a really good opportunity this year to go down, and we had a really good truck. We showed really well. And not only did we show well in the truck series, but we also had Tad Moffat as our teammate in the truck series. And then we had Jacques Villeneuve and Jacques Villeneuve in the Cup car in the next gen car. So, and then I brought Billy Burns down to help out, who Billy is crew chief for Jacques Villeneuve over in the NASCAR Euro series. So, just a bunch of Canadian boys having a lot of fun down there. And it turned out to be, you know, we worked really hard all week on that next gen car. That new car is something else. It's they're really going to have to work hard to get a handle on that thing. But we worked hard on it, and we got Jacques into the 500, which was really big. We got him in on Wednesday night, which we never would have thought we would have got on speed, but it was a really cool experience. Yeah. I relate it back to 2018 when I was there with DJ and he qualified his way in on the 150 night. It was the same sort of feeling, you know, so it was really cool. But, you know, we got him in, and then we had a lot of work to do. We blew them. Well, we dropped a valve and the motor was blown up on Saturday morning. We realized that. So Billy and the boys had to get, you know, change a motor, and that's not an easy task in this next gen car. So it was a lot of work, just like always. It's no different whether you're running a street stock or you're running NASCAR Pinty series or you're running Camping World Trucks or you're running next gen. It's always a lot of work when you're there. It just seems it never gets any easier. So we got that all done. But Friday night we were in the race, and it's the first time I've ever been in the Camping World Truck Series where, you know, we weren't just there to get the best finish that we could get. We were there to be smart, and we were there to be at the end. And lo and behold, we were at the stripe on the white flag lap, and we were actually in seventh. At the stripe, and the truck on the outside of me lost his air, and I got sucked up into him, and it was just really a racing deal. And we got knocked out. We ended up 20th. We still finished, but you know, I've never been in a position in that series to win it, and that was a really big eye opener that we can be there. So we're really looking forward to the next time at Talladega to get back in that truck and kind of redeem ourselves and hopefully be in that same position again.
Yeah, I was a little bit quick on the trigger and texted you and said, man, I think 6th or 7th place. That was, you know, got a bit messy at the end, but good job. And then the results come up. I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You know, when you can see the leader coming to the white flag, and he's literally 10 car lengths ahead of you. And you know, those cool guys that are up there, that was Thor Sport that was lined up. And you know, what happens, we were coming off of 4, and Ty Majeski was on the bottom, and he looked like he was blowing up. It turns out it was a really bad tire rub, but all I saw was smoke, and I saw him getting kind of squirrely. And I had a shove from Matt DiBenedetto coming down into 3, and we came off of 4, and he gave me another shot. Nags, it damn near knocked my molars out. But I was like, keep hitting me, you know. And Haley Deegan was behind him, and we had a run, and I had no choice, but I had to go to the middle. And you know, At Talladega, you could do that. You can go 4 and 5 wide all the way around the track. At Daytona, I think it's only 43 feet wide. So to go 3 wide down through the tri-oval was something I definitely didn't want to do. And at the moment that I made the commitment to go there, I was like, okay, this is probably not going to end up very well, but we're in it now. And we started making a run up the middle, and if we could have made it through there without that aero issue that sucked us up into the 44 truck, honestly, I don't know what would have happened. We had an opportunity there to go with that outside line and get up in the draft, and we had the energy moving on the outside. So
yeah,
it was quite an experience for sure.
Awesome. No, these guys are right there. That was really cool for sure. You mentioned Josh Reum. For those that don't know, how did he end up down there?
So Josh really has got quite a crazy story. His family, they moved around the world a lot. His dad runs schools around the world, Christian schools, and they were in Africa. And he got into go-karting, and he did that for quite a while, and he got quite good at it. And then they moved back to Victoria, and he kept into the go-karting, and then he moved up into different types of auto racing, and got his engineering degree at University of Victoria, and then moved down to Charlotte on a whim and a prayer that he was going to go and get involved with auto racing. And he got involved with a couple of teams as an engineer, and then with aspirations to be a driver, and got into driving a little bit here and there. And then he just started up his own truck team. And I drove for him the first year. They were looking for a road course ringer for CTMP, and DJ Kennington hooked me up with them, and got to run with them a few times. And Josh is he's a go-getter. He's very ambitious. He, that week, I was just so impressed with him. I was trying to take as much pressure off him as I could, because I could see what was going on. He had 2 trucks, and he was trying to get Natalie Decker in the Xfinity race, and he was, trying to get Jock in the Cup race, and he was just going, and, trying to do the business side of things and trying to deal with competitive side of things, getting that car through tech and all that sort of stuff. So he's just a go-getter, and he's I kind of relate him to myself. We don't, like, no isn't in our vocabulary, or can't, or won't, or any of that. It's just, if we're gonna make a decision to do something, we go get it. And that's what Josh is all about. He's a go-getter, and I'm pretty proud to be part of Raymond Brothers Racing, because what it's done in the last 4 years is pretty astronomical, really, in the NASCAR world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds like, you had a great time at Daytona. As a matter of fact, one of our previous guests on the podcast, you mentioned Bill Burns. I saw that you posted a picture there, and it certainly looked like you guys had a good time. And, hopefully the results are a little bit better next time you get down there. But let's rewind a little bit and talk about your path to Daytona, Jason, because you don't just drop in there, like I did at Niagara Speedway, Alex. But anyway,
I don't know if you ever heard that episode,
Mikey,
but I'll tell you right now, Mark will not be at Daytona anytime soon.
Well, hey, I'm just saying you can
awesome.
You can go 4 wide there. That's anyway. All kidding aside, I see, like many of our guests, Jason, you're from a racing family, with your dad Marty and older brother Jim also racing. Can you tell us how did you get your start in racing, and what type of car did you start in?
Well, I always tell people where I got my start in racing is I was 2 weeks old with cotton batting in my ears at Langley Speedway, watching my dad and my uncles, and it was a family experience from day one. But when I actually got behind the wheel, I was 15 years old at a place called Deming Speedway, a little dirt track just across the line down in Washington State. It's actually where Casey Kane got his start, and he was there about 2 years after I was there. So that's where I got my start. And at that point, it was kind of tough, because my dad was at the top of his career in the super modifieds and the West Coast Fire and Fury, and, racing with Davey Hamilton and Billy Vukovic and Gary Bentonhausen. God, the list goes on. Like he was on the, Tom Sneva and all these guys. So I kind of I didn't have my dad there at the beginning to help, but we had the cars and we were racing, and my brother and I kind of raced a little bit together. So we did that a bit. And then family business kind of took over for a while, and we got out of racing. And I actually was in speed skiing. I got into the speed skiing world for the Canadian National Downhill Speed Skiing Team. So I kind of got my speed fix through that whole era for about 5 or 6 years. And then Sun Valley Speedway was built, which became Motorplex and the NW 300. where the NW 300 was held. So my brother got back into that, and all of a sudden my family was geared back into racing again. And from there, got into CASCAR Street Stocks and CASCAR West, and then got the bug with my buddy Rob Zimmer, and we put together a NASCAR team, and off we went.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had the privilege of meeting your dad, Jay, but maybe at the track. I don't know. I can't remember, but I met your brother Jimmy, of course, and like you said, I think you had some good success with that CASCAR Street Stock. Didn't you win the championship at Sun Valley one time?
Yeah, I'm sure Robin McCluskey. Remember Robin?
Yeah.
He works for Dumoulins now. So Robin is a Western boy from Vernon, British Columbia, and I chased Robin for about a year and a half, and I know he was stroking. He had a stroker in there for sure. But I chased him, and he won. He beat me probably 15 or 20 times. Man, I finished second to him so many times, and it was a lot of fun racing and came so close. And then one night I beat him, and then after that was it. I beat him every night, and we won, I think. I don't know. There's only a couple races we didn't win over a couple years there. And that was right around the time when, Richard Buck was hanging around and NASCAR was lurking around, and we were told that NASCAR was coming, and none of us believed it. And it was a pie in the sky. And, that was right around the transition of when things were going to happen. So that's kind of where, the CASCAR world started for me. And then from there, it kind of morphed into more than that.
Yeah, I think Vernon was, with the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series, the first time you and I met. I don't think we'd really ever met prior to that. I was crew chiefing for Ron Van Ness then. You had the A&W 21 car, and that's where we first got introduced out there in Vernon. What a great place that was before it got, well, I guess it's not leveled yet, is it?
No, it's not. What happened is the company, we know them very well. We actually do business with them. The company that paved it and did all the earthwork and all the concrete, they were owed some money, and they took it over, and they tried to make it work. And then they realized that, they're not in the racing industry.
Yeah. Well, there's so many over time, there's been so many great teams and drivers from out West, and still is. For myself, I measured racing against so many of them, like current Hall of Famer Kevin Dowler, DeHaarce, Wade Lee, Brown, Trevor Siebert, Danny Shirley. I know I'm missing some guys, but so many great racers out there. It was always fun to go out there. And when they came back and raced with us here in Ontario, it was a blast. And, so many of those guys now have kids in it too. So, it's going well. And, like you said, I think it was CASCAR, then NASCAR took it over. Like you said, it finally happened. And I think at that time you ended up being the last Western guy to run full time.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's funny, like I said earlier about Josh Brayhoom, like I can't take no for an answer. And I remember a lot of the guys in the West saying, "Oh, there's no way you could do this. There's just no way." And, I have a bit of a knack for the marketing side of things. And I had great partners in A&W and Zimmer Wheat and GMC and your GMCTruckstore.com and stuff like that. So we just went forward and we kept going, and we just, I think the number one thing that helped me the most though was right away I had support from my competitors, really. Honestly, Nags, it was, Dave Whitlock helping me out, and Scott Steckley and DJ Kennington and Derek Lynch, and all these, in Ontario, these are huge names that are like Hall of Fame type people. And for some reason they liked me, and for some reason they put me under their wing a bit, and they'd help me out with the transmission, or they'd help me out with some tires or whatever. And, we never had the money to be a top tier team. And, we were there doing what we could and just trying to compete and learn and grow our team, and which we did. We grew and grew and grew. And then it just got to a point where I couldn't run my own team anymore because it was just too much effort and money. So then I just took the sponsorship, and I went on. At that point, I went to DJ Kennington and Derek Lynch, and it just kind of morphed from there as well.
I think every single one of those guys you mentioned have been on the show, Alex.
I think so.
Yeah, for sure.
We're in pretty good.
And I appreciate every one of them. I honestly, every single one of those guys, and more. There's way more than that. You're always going to miss people when you say those things, but there's just so many people that just opened up their doors, and even Mixie probably gave me something other than a wall on the caution because he needed a caution or something. But
listen, just so you know, you were, even when me and Mixie were racing late models locally, he was giving those out. So don't, it wasn't just for you, Whitey.
He was down in Daytona, actually. Yeah, he's been there a few times. He was actually my good luck charm a few years back in 2019 when I finished 6th in the ARCA race, 10th in the truck race. So and Pete Shepard were there, and this year Dave Jacobs and those guys, they were down there again this year. So yeah, it was good to see them down there for sure. And so it's always good to be around those type of people. I mean, there's, Pete Shepard, there's another name that is synonymous with good racing in Ontario and in Canada and stuff. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Great group of guys you just talked to. Anyway, Alex talked, you mentioned Trevor Siebert, Alex, and I don't want to miss this. He and his group have done a lot recently to help recharge the race scene out your way, Jason, with the build of the Area 27 road course and now purchasing the oval in Penticton. And although I do hear there's an oval in BC going away, but how would you describe the state of motorsports in Western Canada right now? And then maybe take it a little further and just talk about the state of motorsports across the country.
Well, okay, so we're going back here to when I started CASCAR West. Trevor's cousin Ken Reif and I played rugby together for years, and I got to go start CASCAR, and Ken was spotting for Trevor. So Trevor started becoming a mentor of mine, and he actually taught me a lot about racing and especially road course racing. And one of the highlights of my career is in turn 3 at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. I schooled Trevor and passed him with an amazing pass, and I'll take it to my grave. And he knows it because he's such a great road course racer. But he taught me one too many tricks at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve that year, and it was I passed him, and Beauchamp was behind me, and there was a couple others behind. We all freight trained him, and he got mad at me after. He said, "Thanks for freight training me with all your buddies." But, anyways, so Trevor and I go back a long ways. We're in the same industry. We understand each other very well. We're both very, very business oriented as well as racing oriented. And we both have a lot of background. And so I've committed to race with that group. I went and out to Area 27 last year. It wasn't the greatest. I actually crashed in qualifying, but what a great facility that they've built out there. And this RS1 car and the Avion Motorsports group, they've got a really good thing going. It's a lot of fun. These cars are fun to drive. They're very similar to a Pinty's type car, but they're a little bit different. They're kind of relating it to a little bit of a Trans Am kind of thing going on. I would actually say a little bit like the next gen car that the Cup guys are in right now. It's kind of a little bit of all of those things. So they've really got a really good model that they've built for Area 27, and then they purchased Penticton Speedway. And basically tore the whole thing right down except for turn 1 and turn 2. They built a whole new wall. They've got all this stuff going on. And Trevor understands motorsports better than most people. So he understands what the fans want. And so he's building it to that. And his night of racing is, to him, he wants to drop the green at 7, and he wants to tell everybody that everything's going to be done at 11 o'clock. You're not going to be there at 1 o'clock with the kids unhappy and the kids sitting in the stands crying and all that sort of stuff. So he understands how important that is. And he's really put forth a great effort, and not just his company and his crew. Like, I've been there twice, and Trevor's on the excavator, he's on the scraper, he's on the rock truck, and Trevor's actually building this thing and making sure that it's being done properly. So, with that being said, then we have one race with the RS1 cars, Avion Motorsports, going to Saskatchewan to Saskatoon, which I'm totally stoked about. Great track. So we've got a 5-race series, not biting off too much. I think they're just, baby steps with this thing. They got the Rattler, which is a late model race. It's going to happen. The Western Rattler is going to happen on April 29th and 30th at Western Speedway. And we're expecting, I would be surprised if there was anything less than 50 late models or 60 late models there. I've already been, talking to lots of people that are planning on coming. So that's going to be an amazing late model race, which, we've got a couple of big late model races in Western Canada. One's the Canada 200 down in Western Speedway, and now this is going to become an annual big event. So with regards to those things, it's really, really exciting out here in BC. And, like you said, with the tail end of that question of what's going on with motorsports in Canada, from what I've heard, the NASCAR Pinty Series is going to have 20 or more full-time teams this year. And I think we're really looking forward to that. And I think as long as the late model and super late model people can keep it together and not fight and have their own type of own type of rules and things, they can get together and have more late model shows and super late model shows. I'm pretty excited about racing in Canada and what we can do. And you go to the Maritimes and they got great racing and stuff. So I think we're in a good spot. I really do.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think our sport is in good shape. Notwithstanding things this year like fuel and tire prices / shortages, but hey, like all industries, just like in your business, the construction business, no matter what, we're all going through it, and you know what, we always adapt, and we'll get to the other side of it for sure. So
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, but I'm not worried about it. I think we'll keep the ball rolling, and I think back about the Western guys, and we were fortunate at CASCAR to have a bunch of Western guys come race with us at the Canadian Short Track Nationals. And I really appreciated those folks making the trip. Man, it was great to see them. I mentioned Shirley earlier. Matt was racing, Dan Shirley's son. So, and just other people I hadn't seen for a while. So it was really fun. And speaking of that race, I'm going to put this out there. I feel that race, the Short Track Nationals, will show itself again somewhere, sometime, and in some form at some point. A lot of sums there.
Whoa,
but I think it will.
Whoa. Is that a scoop next? Is that a scoop? Are you announcing something here on Driver?
I said a lot of sums there.
Yeah.
Just had, and it's not going to be in 2022, but yeah, we shall see.
We'll see what happens. Well, I mean, the biggest, the most devastating blow that Canadian motorsports has taken is to take away the crown jewel. I mean, what an absolute gem of a facility. I mean, I raced there as Cayuga and then raced there as Jukasa. Man, oh man, did you guys do a good job there? And, unfortunately with the passing of Kenny, that, things went away, and it's horrible because I've had people down in the States, ask me about Jukasa, and I heard it's amazing, and I heard about these short track nationals, and people don't understand how amazing that facility really is. It's something else, man. It's you can relate it to New Hampshire, you can relate it to Martinsville. Like it's really an amazing facility. So that's a big blow. I mean, talking about how confident we are about racing in Canada, that really was a big blow for everybody to hear that for sure.
Yeah,
very well said. Yeah,
I believe me, I know it was. It's not good, but who knows? Maybe it'll be a racetrack again. We'll see. That got me thinking. I was talking to a mutual friend of ours earlier, and you mentioned earlier about schooling our old buddy Trevor at the road course. But I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, and I mentioned you're coming on the show, and he said to make sure to ask Whitey about the big pass that he made on him at the Toronto Indy coming up the hill, driving old Robbie McConnell's car. And I remember this. And after making a career-altering pass on him, someone your day ended up pretty short. The car ended up pretty short.
A little shorter.
Any guesses on who I was talking about, and what was the details of this incident, buddy?
That would probably be Doug Kennington Jr.
He told me that he seen you coming and you made the pass, and he called it on the radio to the crew. Watch this, Whitey's about to spend that thing.
Yeah, that was another one of those moments that was pretty awesome. We were coming down Lakeshore Drive, and I knew I had a run on him, and I had it was actually the Simone's car, and Larry Jackson was my Robbie McConnell was there helping out, but it was actually the Simone's car, and it was through CBRT, and Larry Jackson was my crew chief, and man, that thing was a hot rod. Like I think I had the best motor in the whole field. So we were coming up through, and I think that pass was for 6th.
Did you have an motor like McCluskey's?
No, yeah, it was a stroker. But I set him up on the lap before, and I knew I could get a run on him. And I think at this point it was one of those, the old bull and young bull. And I think DJ moved over and he's like, all right, I'll let him go. And then we came up the hill, and I came into the next corner, and I didn't lose it, but I just tail tapped the wall and knocked my trunk lid off. And of course that caused the caution. Well, I come into the pits, and Larry had already hornswoggled the trunk off of Gary Klut's car, because Gary had either blown up or something. He was parked right beside us. So Gary's over stealing the trunk off of Gary Klut's car. We duct taped it onto my car. Turns out I turned the fastest lap of the race with it duct taped on. But my fastest lap was with 3 to go or something. And I think we still had it.
Your fastest lap would have been if you pulled off that pass.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So no, that was funny too. Yeah. DJ reminds me of that quite often, actually.
Yeah, he even mentioned that you might want to talk to Whitey about maybe something similar to that at iCar one time. But he did follow it up with say to make sure you tell Whitey I still love him. So you're on.
Yeah. Right on. That's good. Good stuff.
Okay, so now that Jason, so we've already talked about off the top that you raced some at home still, but you're one of the very few drivers doing some NASCAR National Series events. What got you interested in getting into some of those races, and how did you end up competing in your first one?
Well, like I said earlier, it started out with I was looking to get into the truck race at CTMP. And I was driving for DJ at the time, and Josh Rayum had called DJ and said, "Hey, have you got anybody that's got some experience at CTMP that wants to run?" So we hooked up with Josh, and Doug George was my crew chief there, and from there, it's just typical of anybody who's got any sort of racing background. It's like, okay, now I want more. So then we went to Phoenix on the mile, and we started talking to Brett Bodine about, okay, what's it going to take for me to be able to do some of the bigger races? I want to do Daytona. So we did Phoenix. I got passed at Phoenix. We did actually pretty well at Phoenix. We had some electrical issues near the very end, but we did very well. Brett Bodine was happy. So I went down to Daytona and did the test for Andy Hillenberg Fast Track Racing, and that went very well. And we ran that race the next month. And actually we missed the race, we missed the truck race that year by just a hair. And so we missed the truck race that year. We did the ARCA race. And from there, it kind of, then I just got more and more of the bug. And the next year we came back, we finished 10th in the truck race, 6th in the ARCA race. Then we did motorsports, CTMP a couple more times. And then the craziest thing I've probably ever done in my life was during COVID 2020, I went to Talladega, and I've been on my simulator at Talladega, but other than that, I've never even been to Alabama. So I get to Talladega. We're not allowed to go into the pits. The drivers have to walk out on the pit road. The trucks are staged. There's no practice. There's no qualifying. Never been to Alabama before. I meet the guy that's buckling me into the truck on pit road, and by this time, I'm starting to get a little bit nervous. And I don't get nervous very often, but I was a little nervous. And he buckles me in, and we get out on the track, and my spotter, Randy Bradshaw, comes on. He's like, "You ready to go?" And I said, "I think so." So we come into the end lap and going into turn one, and we're going so slow that the front tires are chunking down the track because it's so steep. And I'm like, "Oh man, this is crazy. What am I doing?" And we come to the green, pick up third, come out at turn two. I pick up fourth, and it's an old runway. Talladega is an old airport. Well, everybody fans out like 10 wide, and I grabbed fourth gear. And at this point, I'm thinking, whose idea was this? So we're going, we picked up 190 miles an hour. We go down into turn three, and everybody fans down into, 4 wide. We're going through. It took me 2 or 3 laps just to catch my breath and to actually figure out that we're okay. We're good. Just pretend you're at Daytona and whatever. And so that was probably one of the most wow factor things I've ever done in the Camping World Truck Series. But so then, we just kept going, and this really, for some reason, I have a bit of a knack, I think, for the super speedways. I like the speed. I understand the draft. By far, I'm not the best race car driver. I understand that. But as a racer, I mean, I understand racing. I understand the business of racing, and I understand how you can be patient. And, I've said to people lots before, what happened 2 weeks ago at Daytona when I was that close on the white flag lap, I think I got a better chance of winning a race at Daytona or Talladega than I do winning a Pinty's race. Because if people that have been around like Nags and people that are around the Pinty series, they understand how steep the competition is. They don't get it. Like, you're racing against DJ, Scott Steckley, LP Dumoulin, Kevin Lacroix. Like, these aren't slouches. These guys could, if they had the opportunity, they could go down and do very well. Alex Labby, all these guys, they could go down and do very well. So I always say my best experience was running 105 races in the NASCAR Pinty's and NASCAR Canadian Tire Series. And it's what helped me get to where I am. But I honestly now have the ambition and the drive to feel that, no, I can win a race at Daytona or Talladega just like anybody else can. It's just all about strategy and being patient and putting yourself in a position at the end to win the race. And that's kind of what we did, back a couple of weeks ago, just that last little bit, 2.5 miles away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we, I guess my next question here is, I'm gonna sort of, Alex. I know you wanted to talk a little bit more about Jason's future plans in Canada for 2022. So why don't we get at that now? Sorry, I just took your question.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, you mentioned the RS1 stuff, Jay, but my thought, are you going to run the Rattler with a late model car maybe? Are you going to do anything else in Canada this year? So, or that you know of so far?
Yeah, we're going to run the Rattler. I got my car, being worked on right now up in, Williams Lake with the Finish Line Racing boys. They're going through it. The Thomas brothers are going through it. I've been talking to Kendall and stuff. So I got a really good late model, what you guys call a limited late model back there. We're hoping we're not bringing a knife to a gunfight because Penticton is more momentum track. It's not a horsepower track. So hopefully we can save our tires and be there at the end and have good success there. But, we're going to run the Rattler. And then we're going to run the 5 race series, in the RS1s, two road races at Area 27, 2 at Penticton Speedway and 1 at Saskatoon. And, I'm not sure if you're familiar or not with how the RS1 series works, but they have basically a professional drivers division. And then they have like a challenge series where people that, just want to try and get into the sport, can do that. So I'm going to try and get my daughter in. She came to Daytona with me a few times and met Haley Deegan and Natalie Decker and Tony Breidinger. And now all of a sudden, she wants to get in. So we're going to give her a shot and, we're going to see how it goes. And, we're going to do that. Right now, my only plan for the Camping World Truck Series is Talladega, but there is a couple opportunities, might run Richmond, and might run, road course race, Sonoma. It's getting a little tight for that one. We're just waiting on some sponsorship news for that, but it's a lot of racing and my businesses are pretty busy right now. So we'll just have to see how that goes. And then I got this kid that's in the ski world of freestyle skiing and he seems to be doing pretty awesome at that too. So I got to spend some time on that with him. So sounds like it's going to be a busy summer.
Yeah.
Well, you just mentioned this and earlier you also talked about how you used to be a speed skier and, I've seen speed skiers and I've done a little bit of skiing myself, but nothing like that. How fast do you actually get going?
Well, when I was on the Canadian ski team for a couple of years and we went over to Europe, for the world championships and I did I clocked 205 kilometers an hour.
Oh, that is unbelievable. Oh my God. I can't believe that. Wow. Yeah. Hey, Alex, Jason would have won every single one of our Chinese downhill races.
You're right.
Yeah. Right. Have you ever seen the movie?
We get Lane Zardo hooked up with Jay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. And when you listen to the episode, you'll know what I mean about the Chinese downhill. It's from the movie Hot Dog, the ski movie.
Oh, I know the Chinese downhill for sure. I'll show you the skis here. This is the skis that we use. Those are 8 feet tall.
Holy jeez.
That's the helmet.
That's unreal. Alex, have you ever seen that? The speed ski?
Yeah, it's crazy.
That is
I've seen some pictures of Jay when I first got to know him, I knew he's a skier. Lives right in the heart of it, man. So you say Ryder, he's doing some freestyle, right?
Yeah, we're off to he got invited to Canadian Nationals in next week in Calgary, and then he gets provincials, and we'll see how we do. But he seems to be taking it on pretty well. I mean, it's kind of natural for him, but it's pretty awesome.
Awesome.
I miss him.
He'll do well. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll watch for the results. Make sure I know you'll post it on social media for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, sounds like you got a busy summer, buddy. And I'm pretty confident that you'll continue to do well. And I know that whenever you are at the racetrack and that you're very competitive, you're always smiling, you're always even keeled. Like you say, I know you understand the business. You always have a great attitude, which is why, in my opinion, wherever you go to race or whatever you're doing, you're well respected in our sport. And that's, I think, the number one thing. So you should be proud of that.
It is pretty important. And I really appreciate those words, especially from someone like you, Nags. And, I try and surround myself with good people all the time. And a mutual friend of ours that was down in Daytona with me, cousin Joe Atkins.
Yeah. Was he down there with you?
He was, yeah. He's been down there a few times with me. So, cousin Joe is a great guy. He was Alex Tagliani's car owner and Rossi's car owner when they won the Indy 500, and he's my cousin. So we have a lot of fun.
I told you about him, Mark. He used to own Bowers and Wilkins.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's Jay's
that's
uncle.
right.
And,
No kidding.
yeah, great guy, man. I miss him. I got to get hooked up with him. I don't know if his same phone number works or not, but I should call him.
Yeah, you should. You would love that. He gets pretty lonely these days. He's not doing too much. He's still doing some stuff with Bowers and Wilkins, but he comes to all the races and he's very interested, and that might morph into something for this coming year as well, with maybe a different truck to drive. So,
well, yell at him for me.
There you go. I will.
What a great guy. Okay, so we have our final segment, buddy. We'll get you out of here. We call it rapid fire, where Mark and I ask you questions and you make a quick response or statement, as quick as possible, anyways. And hopefully Mark doesn't interfere like he always does. Or maybe it's me.
The other way around. Yeah.
There you go. All right, buddy. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Super Speedway or Canadian Bullring?
Super Speedway.
I think you answered that a couple minutes ago. Your favorite race car that you've ever had or drove?
43 CASCAR Street Stock.
Those days were the best for all of us, I think.
Oh yeah.
There goes Alex interrupting again. All right. Any race day superstitions?
White gloves for the race.
DJ Kennington.
Big mentor. Big mentor of mine.
Even though he busted your ass today?
I would expect nothing less than for DJ to bust my ass. He's like my brother.
Jason, if you could try any type of race car, if there is one that you haven't tried yet, what would it be?
A rally car. I feel rally drivers are the best drivers in the world. I'd like to try a rally car.
You've been to some tracks before. Your favorite track you've been on?
Daytona, for sure.
How about something your fans don't know about you?
My fans don't know about me. I played rugby for 25 years, so I'm a rugby player.
Wow.
Your best racing memory so far?
My best racing memory so far is probably winning the Rookie of the Year in 2008 at Kawartha Speedway, NASCAR Canadian Tire Series. I was the first Rookie of the Year, and that probably still holds as one of my best memories for sure.
You've had a few of those.
Yeah.
When you played rugby, did you do the haka? Is that what it's called, the haka? Or is it the new?
We had to sit and watch the Kiwis do the haka in front of us and scare the shit out of us. But I know the haka.
that is pretty cool. They do it in softball too.
Yeah.
All right. See, now it was my turn to interrupt, Alex. Jason, if you could change one thing in racing, what would it be?
Politics. Take politics out of racing.
The coolest race event you've been part of so far?
GP3R.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah,
I'd say the same. I never raced there, but I was a part of it, and I'd say the same thing.
Not only the track, but man, when you go out in town and that's just a festival of speed. It's you go out in Trois Rivières at night, and the lights and all the stuff that's going on and the fireworks, and I'll never forget one time we broke the third link in the car, and my boys were fixing it, and I said to my wife Melissa, I said, "Hey, we got to go find these guys something to eat." And we're in the pits, and Tim Ellis was staying to work with us to get the car fixed. And I said, "Okay, I'll go find you guys something to eat." We looked for half an hour and we couldn't find anything to eat, but there was like 5 places that sold beer and wine. And I came back and said, "Boys, I couldn't find anything to eat. All they sold was beer and wine." And they were all like, "Well, where the hell is the beer and wine?" So no, it's GP3R for sure.
Okay, one word question here. Family.
Racing.
Big family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Whitey. Listen, man, we got to get you out of here, but we can't thank you enough for joining us. You can find Jason on Facebook, like we said, Instagram, and Twitter by searching for Racin' Jason White. Thanks, bud.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me on, guys. This stuff is really cool that we can do these things now and get our word out there, what we're doing and how much fun we're having. And hopefully the fans get out this year and support your local short track. That's really what the most important thing is go out and support the people that are trying to put some entertainment out on there for us, and bring your kids out there and buy a hot dog, buy a beer, and go get some entertainment.
Or a few beers.
I agree.
Or a few beers. And that's all. That's and there's another episode of Driver in Deep in the can.
Well, we're wide open sideways.
All right, you're clear.
The talk is cheap.
You're clear on that.
We got the foot to the floor. There's only driver in deep.
Gonna be on the inside of you. All right, you're clear. Got a slow boat coming up on your inside. All right, you're clear. You're clear on this. Gonna be on the inside of you. All right, you're clear.